You've tuned into Tomcat Tales, the story of Ashland's legends from the gridiron, the court, the diamond, and beyond. It's a deep dive into Ashland Tomcat sports history. Now, here's your host, Mark Maynard.
Well, hello everybody. We're excited. We're at episode 4 of the Tomcat Tales, and I'm with Herb Conley, coach of the Tomcats from 1968 to 1976. And Herb, we're through with the first 3 seasons, 68, 9, and 70. Your first 3 years as head coach, and in particular that 1970 season that you guys finished 3-7, tough season, but you ended with a big win over Ironton, 7-3, and you installed the wishbone. And it seemed like fortunes turned with that. How were you feeling during the off season?
Well, I felt great. You know, we knew we were going to start working on the wishbone, do more things with the wishbone. We had so many people coming back. Matter of fact, I've looked at that over the years. The 71 team I had more people coming back that played. I had 25, I think,
wow.
I counted, that had played. More depth than any team I coached.
Wow.
And we were really excited about the team. And the schedule was set up. We didn't set up. They moved us around. We were in the district with this area, and then we was up in the mountains. Then we were in Lexington district. That's where we finished up. When we were bouncing back and forth, it was hard to get a schedule. A lot of times we had to really work and get a schedule. A lot of people didn't want to play us.
Right.
And so that's what happened in 71. Hazard didn't want to play us, and if we'd got that game, I'm sure we'd have beaten Hazard the way we were playing, and we would have been possibly a state championship team.
Right. Let's talk about that just a little bit. You guys finished, not to be a spoiler, but you all finished the season 10-2.
Yeah.
And you didn't lose a game to a Kentucky opponent all year. Lost to Huntington High and Ironton, and we'll talk about those games. But you don't get in the playoffs. And that just seems crazy now, because, of course, everybody's in the playoffs now, so it's a lot different. But even any time you think if you won all your Kentucky games, you would get in the playoffs. But you said, like, some teams just refuse to play, right?
Exactly. And I was pretty bitter about it at the end of the season, especially with the Kentucky High School Athletic Association. I was really upset with them. And, as a matter of fact, I called them a couple times and let them know my thoughts on it. And it didn't do any good, but I got to relieve myself of that.
Very unfair for this team, right? I mean, because who knows what they might have been able to do.
Well, yeah, and this team was so dedicated. I tell you what, they were good workers. I had so many. I've looked at that team over and get a picture of them, look at them, and we weren't a real big team, but we were quick, and we were tough, and they practiced hard, worked hard, and were very dedicated. Very dedicated. And they thought they were going to be state champs. They really did. Mm-hmm. And,
so how, as the season played out, I mean, did you know, or did the whole thing have to play out before you knew, okay, we're not going to get in?
I didn't know until about I'd say the second game of the playoffs. Somebody told me that we weren't going to be able to make it, and I said, well, how come? And they said, Hazard is going to win it. If they win their last game, they're going to win it. I think it was Hazard.
Yeah, it was Hazard that didn't play. I remember that. I don't know if they won the district or not.
I think that's who won at Hazard. And so I was very upset. I tell you what, we had kids who worked their tails off to get to the playoffs and then we really felt like we could win it and win it all.
I'm pretty sure Bryan Station won it that year, and of course, Bryan, they're always pretty good. Always have a lot of talent and whatnot. But over the years, you guys played pretty tough against them. So if it had gotten to the point where you'd have played them, you wouldn't have felt too bad about that, right?
No. We felt like we could beat Bryan Station or whoever. It was just a very disappointing.
Yeah,
that's the only thing disappointing about that year.
The season itself, played out with a lot of familiar names to Tomcat fans: Steve Lehman, Pierre Harshaw, Steve Crenute, Randy Rice, Richard Gardner, Bob Queen. These are names that we've talked about. Steve Justice, Dave Johnson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Randy Elkins, just a lot of great players.
Pierre Harshaw.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Shellcroft. I tell you, Kevin Shellcroft was one of the toughest little fellas. He was about 5'3", about 115 pounds. And he made me play him. He made me play him. That rascal, he did a tremendous job for us as outside linebacker.
He could play for sure. So this team, though, of course, you go into it now. It's interesting, just looking at the coaches, the coaching staff. Bill Tom was like a student assistant in 1970. He was doing his student teaching at Blazer, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then 71, you hired him.
You got him hired
as a full-time assistant.
Yes.
And you also had John Tuttle.
Yeah, John Tuttle, Nick Jordan.
And Nick Jordan, who
Nick
great Tomcat, right?
He's a great Tomcat, and I tell you what, he's one of the best high school football coaches I was ever around. It was his first year. He knew a lot about, because he played Michigan State, and he knew a lot of techniques, and he helped us really big on the defensive side. And offensively, one day I said, here's what how I want you guys to block. And I said, I don't know if you can teach this. I said, before we did a lot of reach blocking. And I said, I really don't like that. I want to go away from it. I want to just knock people off the ball, come off the ball and block them any way they want to block them. But I want our backs will have to learn how to read the block and get off the block. And I said, that'll be my responsibility to make sure the backs can read that. And the linemen knock them out of there, I don't care which way, but best way they can take them. And that's what he did, and we moved to football.
Yeah, it seemed like the wishbone. You had some pulling, but not too much. It was mostly straight ahead blocking.
Well, we did pull when we countered.
Yeah,
we run a lot of counters, and
right. You pull that guard, and
pull the guard. We did an inside trap with Steve Lehman up the middle. Yeah. We run them in. We run them off the guard, then we run up inside there and trap, and then we wide trap out on the tackles, and sometimes we'd even go out there and trap that in. See, depending on what defense they ran and how we wanted to block that.
But to run that wishbone well, I think you need a couple things. One, you need a great fullback,
exactly,
and you need a great quarterback who is pretty courageous and doesn't mind to take a hit.
Exactly.
You had that,
yeah, and then we had all that. We had that. Steve Lane was a heck of a tough fullback. We had some people could. That year I had almost every back I had could play any position and would be very effective. And I want to say this right now. I don't want to forget this. Richard Gardner played that year as a halfback. He made the best block I've ever seen from that time on in high school, college, pros. I've never seen a block like it in my entire life. And I had it on tape. I had put it on a film. I had a teaching film. And I let people borrow it, and the last person borrowed it never gave it back to me, and I have no idea where it is today. But we were in an outside option, and he was a lead blocker, and I think Pierre was a runner, and he was going downfield. And he blocked the guy on the corner, and we always taught him to tack the outside shoulder and stay on that outside shoulder and work your tail and your butt upfield. And he was doing that and started upfield, and the back was supposed to read that block, and if he's having trouble, he's supposed to step up inside and make that defensive man come back to the inside. Then that gave him a better angle to stay on top of his outside. And he did that. And then he jumped out there. Pierre jumped out on the outside, and that kid was trying to fight through the head to get to Pierre. Well, if he had went around him, Pierre had been gone for a touchdown. But that guy kept fighting like you're coached to do, and he went 30 yards down the field, and he was just, Richard was just running. He wasn't trying to block him. He was just running straight down the field. And that kid was right on his shoulder, and it was something else. And he got down to about the 10-yard line, and here come another guy across, and Richard hit him. And with that, knocked both of them down, and Pierre went on in to score.
Untouched.
Untouched. and it was the greatest block ever. Matter of fact, I had a lot of comments from the different coaches.
That's how you do downfield blocking, right?
I thought about one time sending it to Darryl Royal, but I thought, I did. I thought
he'd probably liked it.
Oh, yeah, he could have showed that to his own players.
This team, and the wishbone, of course, is a running offense. Basically, the pass. I remember when Vic was coaching on the 1990 team. He said
they ran the wishbone.
Oh yeah, he said our pass is the pitch. That was when the ball was in the air.
Yeah.
When the quarterback pitched it. That's And this team was much like that. Steve Canute threw 81 passes. All season. Now he threw 14 touchdown passes because everybody had to commit so many people to the run that people were wide open.
Yeah, and they played the run, and they any day what they were doing, they were going to stop that run. They wanted to get, and we'd make sure they had to stop that run for a while, and then we'd throw every now and then. And I did it too to let them ends know we loved them.
We like your blocking, we're going to give you a pass.
Yeah, if you blocked it, we're going to throw that ball to you.
Yeah, and you had to be so excited about this team, especially after the first 3 seasons that were tough. I mean, you had some good players, but you didn't have great players.
Yeah.
This team had some great players, and some really high character people on this team too.
Oh, yeah, they were all good kids.
Yeah,
and they, as I was saying, we had I counted it one time after I got out. We had 25 players on that team that could play. That's the most I ever had on any team, more than I had on the 75 team. Depth-wise, we were
deeper.
Yeah, deeper.
So, I mean, I would never put you on the spot to say who your best team was, because I know you loved them all, even from 68 to 76, whatever they did. But I know this one. I think because of the circumstances of them not being able to get in the playoffs through no fault of their own, kind of makes you. I always felt sorry for this team a little bit.
I did too. And Mark, I've talked to you over the years, and I get, I talk about that 71 team all the time. Didn't get a chance to play, and I was bitter. I was so mad. I'll tell you what. I don't know if I told you this story or not. The week of the state championship game in '72, well, they called me and wanted to know if I was, what jerseys I wanted to wear. I said, we're not coming. This is the commissioner. He said, what do you mean you're not coming? I said, we're not coming. You wouldn't let us come in '71 when we had a team, we're undefeated, and we didn't get a plan. I'm not playing this year. And he said, you got to. I said, well, I'm not. He said, okay. He called the principal, Mr. McCann. And Mr. McCann got on the phone, called me down at the office. He said, could you come up, Coach? And I went up, and he said, let me ask you, did you tell the commissioner you wasn't coming to play? I said, I sure did. He said, we got to go. I said, we don't have to go. He said, well, are you going to take him? I said, nope, not going to go. And I went. We'd been practicing every day.
Yeah.
And I went down to the office, and at the end of the school day, he calls me again. He said, the commissioner called me back and wanted to know. And I said, well, tell him we're not coming. So I waited until Thursday. And they called again, and he said, wanted to know, go come. And he called the principal, Mr. McCann, and he called me and said, Coach, are we going to go or not? I got to know. I said, Coach, Mr. McCann, you know we're going to go. And I said, yeah, we've been practicing. We're going to go.
That's funny. That is funny. But, yeah, I mean, the year before, they pretty much took it from them, you look back at this season, and, of course, the opener is like a typical opener in the Herb Conley era. You all blew out Knox Central 39-6, and as we talked about, I think in the last episode, you never lost a season opener. You were 9-0 in season openers with Ashland.
If I'd have quit at that time, I'd be all
right. Richard Gardner has 176 yards rushing in that game, just dominating the game, and I'm sure people in the stands, they saw the wishbone in that last Iron game, or at least the diehards did that went over that weren't looking for your head.
Exactly.
But they hadn't seen this. They hadn't seen the wishbone in action. I think you told me you all had maybe 4 plays against Ironton.
Yeah, that's what we had. We had 4 plays and 2 passing plays.
Yeah, so you didn't have the offense in.
No. We had a lot of our offense in.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Every year we added a couple plays.
A couple wrinkles.
Yeah, and couple different blocking schemes.
And I don't know what other what everybody else did that day, but I'm sure. And that was an away game too, which was unusual. Y'all played at Knox Central. That is a haul, and that's a haul today.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it was like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's way up in the mountains of Knox County. So then you stay in the mountains. You may as well just stayed up there. Herb, y'all played Whitesburg the next week.
Well, what, we beat them 45-0. I was pretty upset that they wouldn't see. Well, Whitesburg do it. They did something to us that upset me that week, but I can't remember.
Well, they probably sided with Hazard or something, because they're up around there. They're big buddies. Then we're going to go on to the third week, and the third week you whacked Belfry 54-20. That game, that's your home opener. And I'm sure at that point, you're 2-0, and you all have just destroyed 2 opponents, and people are starting to, hey, is this team, maybe this team is it, and you come out on that home opener and you put 54 on Belfry. That's a good
and
solid
Belfry's
win.
always had a good program and won.
Mm-hmm. So that was a huge win. And so now you're rolling. You're 3-0, and one coach we didn't mention earlier, Bob Force.
Yeah, Bob. He
was
coached
another
with me.
assistant.
Yeah, he coached with me all the time I was there, except the last maybe year or so.
So interesting coaching staff. But anyway, you're getting up now. The people in the state are starting to notice, and you're getting in the AP poll a little bit. People are okay. These guys must be pretty good. They're 3-0. But you've beaten 3 mountain teams, so they're probably thinking, well, they're the best team in the mountains. Yeah. But so what? So you play Harrison County, and of course you coached there.
Yeah, I coached there,
and you know how tough those kids are.
And back in those days, Harrison County was really good.
Yeah, great reputation.
Real good. Yeah, and they could play. I was there. We had one of the about finest football teams that Harrison County ever had when I was there.
Well, and in fact, and we've talked about this at different times, not in the podcast, but Harrison County laid it on the 67 Tomcats in the preseason.
Oh yeah,
just a nightmare. But then you guys got them back in the playoffs.
Playoff
in the playoff game. So, and that was a huge win in Ashland history, really.
Yeah, big win. That was big win, and it led towards state championship.
Mm-hmm. That was actually the first playoff win. If you want to just straight up playoff win in Ashland history. Was that Harrison County game, and that was a game that I'd say a lot of people didn't think Ashland was going to win that game.
Well, yeah, because they beat us. They beat us 66-0 in the scrimmage. Yeah. I remember the score.
That's a pretty good turnaround.
And I knew they were going to be good because I'd left that year before that, and we had almost everybody come back at Harrison County.
Yeah,
great team.
Did you make the schedules out?
I started making the schedules out after my first year.
Okay, so you set this schedule out.
Yeah.
And you knew Harrison was probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I knew the problems could be. We're going to have to play people like that, and I like to play good teams. I don't think you can beat good teams unless you play good teams.
Right. The next week, Covington Holmes comes to Putnam Stadium. Covington Holmes has beat you guys. I think the previous 2 years, and one's pretty good, pretty soundly. And as we talked about them, they always have great athletes and good players and well coached, and a Northern Kentucky team, and we know how those teams have always played, not just in the 70s, but throughout history. They've been great football.
Exactly. Back in those days too, they had a good coach down there. He played at Ohio State under Woody Hayes, and I cannot remember his name, but he was a fullback, played fullback down there.
Oh wow!
Under Woody Hayes, and he was a heck of a coach, and I don't think we'd have beaten him until this time.
Right. I think they beat you maybe 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
At least 2, I know. And that game was 14-0. This team's starting to get a little bit of reputation as a great defensive team, as your legacy is a lot. And I think people forget about how good a defensive team this was sometimes because their offense was so good.
Very good. Very good. Good defensive team, and they all played both ways. But I tell you, we played a lot of people. We played a lot of people. I didn't know we played this many people until I started looking at it.
So we're going to go on to the next week, and that is Russell. And Russell had beat you for the first time in 1970. First time in Ashland history they had lost to Russell. And was it Bob Heberlin that caught the touchdown pass in that game in the 70s?
I'm not sure. I don't remember him. The guy that cut the touchdown pass come over and did student teaching at Ashland when I was there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I can't remember for sure. I'm sorry I blanked on that. Yeah. But anyway, in that game, Harshaw has a big game. He wrestles for 112 yards, and you get a little bit of revenge on Russell. You pound them pretty good, 26-6, and that's probably Leif Walter's team, one of his teams, I would think.
Yes.
Leif did a good job.
He wanted to beat us too. His first coach had ever beat Ashland.
He probably loved that.
Yeah, he did.
Leif was a good fella.
He was a good coach.
And a great coach, for the Red Devils. So now we're looking at 3, 4, 5, 6-0. Tomcats are 6-0. People are definitely noticing at this point. What has made this team so good to this point? This is like midway through the season.
Well, I think that desire they had to play, and they played that sophomore year, and they didn't like it. They didn't like getting beat, and they played and worked hard and had a lot of pride. But they talked to me, and they did not want to lose. They wanted to play. They wanted to win, and they wanted to work to get some results. And they would practice like crazy. Matter of fact, this team is the first. This is when we started having breaks, water breaks, in practice. You know, I was the one started, and I told you a story about.
We went over that story.
But that really helped us. You know, we'd give them 10, 15 minute break. I told them, I said, hey, fellas, 10, 15 minutes. I don't care for how long it takes us, but that time's my time. So as soon as we get through, I start the clock back. We may be on the field 4 hours and a half, but we're going to get 2.5 hours practice in.
Tell me about your practices a little bit. I mean, were you very structured in what you tried to do?
Oh yeah, we started every practice off with our kicking game. We worked on our kicking games. You know, certain ones would be working on their kicking game, and we'd be working on a passing game and throwing the quarterbacks throwing, working on routes with the ends. Working on the offensive backs, taking their steps and working on the routes that they have to run. Our linemen would be over working on stance and steps, and that's what we did every day. You know, come out.
It's fundamentals.
Yeah, all fundamentals. Yeah, we worked on that every day, and that didn't count on our how long it took us to practice. You know, well, that was my time.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. So, and of course, you scrimmage time, which you have to do that as well.
I think we always scrimmage, Mark. You know, I don't think people do that much anymore, but we scrimmaged every Tuesday and every Wednesday. And Tuesday we'd scrimmage on offense. Wednesday we'd scrimmage on defense. We didn't scrimmage long, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I always wanted them to get some hitting in, so they can get. I want them to be used to hitting and not lose that desire to get and knock somebody's head off. And
we're going to talk about one of those drills later that almost was costly. We'll talk about that as we get a little closer to the end of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, your teams are also known for being aggressive, for being big hitters, and you all promoted that, and you wanted that. You wanted that was part of the intimidation factor.
Exactly. We wanted them to hit tough, hard, and we didn't teach them to hurt anybody, but we teach them the proper way, and we wanted them to know they've been hit. Really, we didn't want them to get back up. They want to go to the sideline and say over there and let somebody else take play. You know.
You guys were so well coached. You know, I can even remember even defensive backs and how they would, you know, angle themselves to get, you know, between them and their man and the ball, and not only that, but watch the guy's eyes. You know, watch the receiver's eyes. You don't have to watch the ball. You're going to, because you don't know the trajectory of the ball.
Exactly.
But you know when his eyes rise up, that ball's coming, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you know, we taught fundamentals. You know, everything we did was worked on fundamentals. Blocking, tackling, defensive backs, offensive backs, quarterbacks. You know, we worked every day. That's another thing we did before practice. We worked on our quarterback and our fullback, getting a good mesh between the quarterback and fullback, where he'd put that ball in the pocket and ride him good. And we wanted to not know who's got the ball.
Right.
We've had them after the ball games many times. I had coaches say, you know, our kids come over the sideline and say they don't know who had the ball, whether the fullback or the quarterback kept it, or if he gave it to that counterback. Or if he faked both and went out on an option, he's on the corner. We don't know he's on the corner getting ready to pitch the ball. Yeah. I said, well, you got to work on those things.
How good, though, was Steve Cornute?
I tell you what, Steve Cornute, he was an outstanding defensive player. I mean, by looking at him, you didn't think he would hit that hard. He's just about 140 pounds, about 6'1", tough as nails. And he when he went to Vanderbilt, he was a heck of a football player. Oh, yeah. He beat Kentucky himself 2 years. I remember talking to Ann Kersey. He said, Herb, I tell you what, I blew it when I didn't sign Steve Cornute.
Did he recruit him?
No.
They didn't even recruit him.
No, I told him, I said, there's a guy you need to get. You need to sign him. And he said, well, you just don't think he's big enough. I said, well, after they did that, I said, well, you're going to find out. And he beat him twice. He knocked Sonny Collins out of the game. One broke his ankle. Yeah. And I think he hit him again one time, knocked him on, hurt his shoulder or something. But he didn't play him no more. And they beat him his junior and senior year.
Yeah, Steve was a great player. As far as a quarterback and running the option, he had to learn that a little bit, I guess. But.
Yeah. Well, he started that last game, his junior year, but he did an outstanding job. Good ball handler. And you know what? I probably, you look back at things now, and I wish I threw the ball a little more, because he threw the ball pretty decent. He wasn't a great quarterback. Now, as far as throwing, he would have been a good wishbone quarterback for somebody, because he could run the ball. And he was running about a 9.700 at that time. See, when he went to track, he went down to track meeting and was. I think he got beat in the state by somebody, and.
That got real far, yeah.
He was. He come in second.
Oh, wow,
in the state track meet, and but he run in the wintertime. That winter after his junior year, I'd be going to a basketball game, go over by the stadium, or he'd be in there lifting weights, and then I'd go on around to high school and coming up that hill. Here he'd be coming, sweats on. He wouldn't be going to the game. He'd be running.
Yeah. You win games in December and January and February, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
How hard are you going to work?
That's why you made yourself a player. And most of those guys did.
Yeah.
A lot of them would be in the weight room. I gave Steve Justice and some of those kids keys to get into it.
I'm sure you weren't supposed to do that.
No,
what are they going to do to you now, right?
No, nobody knew that. But I told the guys this. I said, you ever get in trouble or mess around over there, and I don't know. You'll wish you hadn't. And
sure.
But every time not sneak in over there and see, they'd always been there working. He'd say, Coach, we're serious.
Okay, so now you're sitting at 3, 4, 5, 6-0 halfway through the season, and old nemesis Boyd County and Tom Scott. Tom's got you. The first 3 years he beat you.
Yep.
All close games. One touchdown games. I think maybe I can't.
6 points won. I think
6. One. I think 13-6 in the 70 season. I think it's one touchdown every time. But that's a game. You just feel like everybody in town is wanting you to win that game.
Yeah.
Because that's a bragging game.
Yeah.
That's a huge rival game.
Yeah.
So you guys have to go to Cannonsburg to play that one, and they're good.
Yeah,
I looked some of their stuff up since we've been talking, and I'm telling you, they had a run from about the time mid-60s when Tom was taking over.
Yeah.
Through the mid-70s when they were as good as anybody.
Exactly.
And as tough as anybody.
They could play with anybody.
And they similar styles, as we've talked about with them. They haven't seen the wishbone though, and nobody was running the wishbone at that time.
No.
I mean, other than the Longhorns.
No, that's right. I don't know if anybody in Kentucky was running.
I mean, everybody they ran the veer, you ran the Pyri, some of that kind of stuff, or pro set backs or whatever. So it's kind of a surprise element. Although they've seen you now 6 games, they've got film. They're like, here's what they do, and they're schooling their kids as best they can. So Boyd County, I remember going to this game and just crazy crowd out there. Both sides just jammed. You couldn't get another person in there. And that game, it was like playoffs. I mean, I know you didn't get a playoff game that year. Well, that was almost like one as far as the atmosphere, anyway. Boyd County, and I didn't remember this. You told me, I think last night, 0-0 at half, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us about that game.
Well, first half we just were sluggish for some reason, and of course it's a hard-hitting game. And the first half we get down on the 1-yard line to score. It's 4th and 1. Well, I run Steve Lehman over Steve Justice. I thought I'd take the best back. I thought was maybe the best back in the state over the best guard maybe in the state. And I said, well, we shouldn't have no trouble. And lined up, and we run. They stuffed us. And then, I'm sure the Tomcat fans are going nuts on that. but I thought it was a good call, and we don't make it. We're going in at halftime. Webb Young was the principal, and he met me going to go up. Go up that hill to get to the dressing room. Yeah. And we were getting ready to go up the hill, and just raised right at the top. He said, Coach, you're going to get him. He said, that's a good call. Don't worry about it.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, don't worry about it. That's where you should have run it. And then we come back out second half. And I had Okie Boggs. He was a good. He was a brother-in-law of Nick.
Right, Nick Jordan.
And I said, okay, you go in there and talk to them and tell them that you come by the dressing room over there. And they was talking about how big bunch of sissies we were. We thought we were tough. And he come in there and told them he'd just walked by and heard all that. They got fired up, buddy. I mean, they come out of that second half and we just wore them out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, the final score of that game was 27-0.
Yeah, 27-0.
Very dominating second half.
Yeah, we just pounded it.
So when you look back on that call, you'd call that again, I guess, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what we did.
Did you say anything to Layman and Justice?
No, I just didn't get it done. They stunned it. They
made the right call.
Yeah, they had the right call, and they jammed us up in there, which they weren't doing. And so when the second half, I think the second time we scored, I think the first time we scored was on a pass, and I didn't throw the ball much. We got down there and I threw a pass to Bob Queen.
Yeah, he had 88 yards receiving in that game.
I threw a pass to him, and he scores, and Bill Tom runs in. He said, great call. He said, we going to throw more? I said, if it's there, I'm going to do it. And so we go on and, play, keep playing, and we get down there. The next time, we got down there on the 1 yard line again. I called the same play with Layman over Justice. They knocked them out there. Steve went into the end zone.
Yeah.
And they come off the sideline. I said, if you did that the first time, we wouldn't have had that. Because we'd scored half. But anyway, I thought, maybe they'll get off my back now.
So did you make the offensive calls?
Well, I had somebody in the press box.
Yeah.
They didn't make the call. I wanted them to tell me where certain people were lined up.
Yeah, what's this looking like?
See, when I coached, I never watched our offense. I always was behind the defense. When we were playing, I watched the defense.
You watched the other guys' defense?
Yeah, I watched their defense.
Okay.
I was always back behind them. You never saw me up around the offense. I knew what our offense could do, and I had Nick watching the line, Bill Tom watching backs, and the people watching different ones. And if they weren't getting it done, come to me and tell me, and then I'd replace them, or they'd get somebody and replace them in. But I watched the defense, and I wanted to know where they were lined up, how they were stunning, and that gave me a good thought to where to run the football. And of course, I had Bill Birch. Bill Birch did a super job of scouting. He told me what defenses a lot of times they get in different situations and where they would be and how they would stunt. And he was so good at that really didn't make it. I pretty well listened to what Bill had told me, and then tried to listen to what he was saying and do it. And I had confidence in what he was telling me. And
you were well prepared.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah. I did rehearse with him a lot of time. We'd talk about where they'd run or where the best place to run. And,
I know some coaches have script out their first 10 plays or.
I didn't do that because you don't know what their defense are going to be in. Yeah. You make a couple calls that you don't need. And I tried to have the best call for our kids, give them the advantage. Mm-hmm. And so.
In that wishbone, as we talked about earlier, though, the key is always establishing that fullback.
No, you got to do that.
Yeah.
I told him, I always said, we're going to run the fullback. I don't care what. We got to run him to establish him, get him smooth through. I said, if we get 4 or 5 yards, I'll take that any day. And I may run it 4 or 5 times in a row, and I did sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And everybody's going, why are they running up the middle for?
We get 4. I told the coach, he said, what do you think? I said, I don't care what they think. I said, we're going to get 5 yards, 5, 5, 10, first down. 5, 5, 10, first down. I said, another thing, no, we're going to be down on the goal line. That's what we want.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that all the time. I'd run and then run. I'd get them to come down, and then when they come down, we'd go outside or we'd trap them, or we always had a pass that we could throw more. Mark, that's one thing I didn't do enough as I probably should have.
Well, Bob Queen had 31 receptions for 527 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Well, see, that's big yardage.
Yeah,
not many times thrown the ball to him, but we got big yardage.
Oh yeah, he was getting 20 yards a catch.
Yeah,
almost. So yeah, he had a big year though.
Bob is he was a good man. He
still is. Great person. Know him well. Of course, like you said, Richard was kind of your feature back, although I don't know. You had so many backs.
Oh yeah, Richard. Pierre Harshaw.
Yeah.
Steve Lehman.
Any of those
Randy
guys.
Rice.
Canute.
Steve Canute. And Steve Canute was a runner. He could run good.
His rushing totals aren't great, but I think a lot of it because you would get. If he would get sacked, that'd go against his rushing totals. So
exactly.
It's kind of I had him for 312 yards rushing, but Gardner had 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah.
Lehman had 525, Harshaw 569, but he only carried 100 times.
Yeah.
And you gave a lot of people a lot of carries. It looks like.
What about Randy Rice?
Randy Rice had 418.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good balance.
Yeah.
Among all those guys. And like I said, I know how you didn't.
I see Pierre, Richard Gardner, Pierre.
Jerry Kirk got some carry. He was probably backup quarterback at that time.
Yeah, him and
Kimbrell.
And Kimbrell, Mike Kimbrell, and Mike is a defensive player.
Yeah,
more of that. He started the defense in. He played a heck of it. He's smart, tough, and he didn't make many mistakes. As for a sophomore, he didn't make many mistakes at all.
Yeah,
and we had a lot of faith in him. Matter of fact, we played him in a halfback and at safety.
Yeah, he's a smart player, good athlete.
Yeah,
good leader. Good leader too. Yeah, I always love those guys being the quarterbacks and wearing 20 and 21 too. Because you always see the single digits or 12s or 14s. I don't know why they chose that.
I don't remember many backs numbers.
Yeah.
I remember Steve. I think Steve Lehman had 27.
He had 20. That's your number.
Yeah, it was my number.
And he ran like you. That was probably about right.
Yeah. I told him, I said, you got to be tough, buddy.
Yeah, you got. If you're going to wear that jersey, you got to be good. So you beat Boyd County finally, and I know that had to, that had to tip you, and it was great for the program, great for the fans.
And great for the kids because I'm sure that people in the community and different ones didn't know or think we were going to be able to beat Boyd County.
Yeah, they beat you 3 years.
Yeah, beat us 3 years in a row, and they have their programs going good, and they'd already went to the state.
Not yet. But they were building.
Yeah, that was in '74.
Right.
Yeah.
And '73.
Yeah.
So they're just a couple years away from being, one of the elite teams in the state.
Yeah. Oh,
really.
Yeah.
And I'd say they're pretty close here. So you, the next week is Wayne County. I guess that's Wayne County, Kentucky. I think. And you whitewashed them 49-0. So this is interesting. Over the 3, 4, 5, the last 5 games. 3 shutouts, and you gave up 6 to Russell and 3 to Harrison County, over that span in 5 games. That's pretty impressive.
Yep.
Defense, not just your offense, but your defense. They didn't allow hardly anything.
Our defense was really good. I thought our defense was excellent.
The next game, so at that point you're 8-0, and I know you got as high as number 2 in the AP poll. And that was probably towards the, at this time, I would say, when you're 8-0. You're ranked second in the state, although, at that point we didn't know, that you weren't going to be able to get in the playoffs, or you all didn't.
No.
But, so it's rolling. And Huntington High, you got to go to Huntington. And never easy, although you have played them tough in your first 3 years. It's been, I think, you may have beat them at least 2 of those years, if not 3. I actually didn't play him in '70. It looks like didn't play him that year. I don't know what happened there.
I don't either.
But didn't play him.
I think we beat him 2 years in a row, didn't we?
Yeah, and you beat him in '68 and '69.
Yeah.
So you hadn't played them in a year anyway. And of course, as we've talked about them, they're really good. I mean, always good. Yeah,
always had a lot of talent.
Always. And you play up at Fairfield on the turf, and that's unusual. Do you remember much about that game?
Well, not really. I just know that every time I played coach against Huntington High, if anybody wanted to get on me, that's when they should have, because I don't think I never did call a good game against Huntington High. I was always mad before the game started. I never stayed focused. Like I was on my kids, you got to be focused.
Yeah.
I was mad at the officials because they called it. We'd have our defensive ends. Back then you couldn't crack back on your defensive end. And, what we would do, we'd come down on the defensive end and pivot around, come around in front of him in the block.
So you get in the front.
Yeah, get in the front. And they kept calling it. And they said, well, you're coming down on him. I said, we're coming down, but we're not hitting him in the back. Our head's in the front. We're coming down and working our way to get in front. That's where the head's supposed to be.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell you who the officials were because it's...
yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
But they did that year all night. Did it every time we played.
So you
at
lost.
home
So you
and
lose the big game.
I did that 2 years in a row.
Huh.
I kept for the game. The coaches say, "Don't talk to them anymore. Don't get on them officials. Just call the game." Well, within 2 minutes, I'd be going nuts. I was so mad that I just thought they was cheating our kids, and I couldn't let it go. And I really felt like
kind of let it get to you.
It got to me, and I just didn't do a good job.
Yeah. So you guys lose 18-14. Canute threw for 58 yards that game, and Queen caught a touchdown pass and had 33 yards receiving from his tight end spot. But you all lose the game 18-14. That's the first loss. How did these guys take that?
Well, they took it pretty hard.
Yeah.
They took it pretty hard. And of course, I apologized to them after the game, and I did it again though. So that next time we played them, I did the same thing. So
you didn't learn.
I didn't learn. That's one thing I really always regretted after I got out coaching, that I let the officials bother me.
Yeah.
And then I just stayed from that time on. I stayed off people.
Yeah. And it's tough when you go cross state too. I think you're seeing different people that are officiating, and they're going to give the home team a break. I mean, that's usually how it goes.
They did ask it to me too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had the same officials. I don't know how I kind of kept telling whoever was doing it. I'm not going to mention the name.
Yeah.
Don't get them. I don't want them anymore. And there they come. And they said, "Well, we've always had them over the years." I said, "I don't care how long we've had them. I don't want them."
Keep them away from me.
Yeah.
So next time up, we got Covington Catholic. I tell you, Herb, nobody can say you soft pedaled anybody.
No, buddy, we played good schedule.
Every week you have another tough team. Covington Catholic, another great Northern Kentucky powerhouse.
Catholic was as good as anybody.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think they've moved him up to
up a class or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kept growing.
Getting
like we talked about before. You got kids from Cincinnati coming over and joining up because it's a private school. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
You can go recruit if you want.
There's a Catholics, so I think they could jump from any school in Kentucky and go there.
Oh yeah. It didn't matter. Yeah, you could play anywhere.
Yeah.
So always a good talent coming in, and they're coming to Putnam Stadium, and you guys put a whipping on them, 34-6.
Yeah.
And you look back on that season, that's an impressive win.
Exactly, a big win. And I'll tell you who I think was coaching that year. I think it was Jerry Lucas's brother, Roy.
Oh yeah.
Who went down and coached out of Moorhead.
Yeah.
I think he was the head coach then.
Richard Gardner has 139 yards rushing in that game, scores 2 touchdowns. Richard had some explosiveness, didn't he? He
could run, he could block.
He could run over you.
Yeah.
Just a package. I mean, he's the kind of.
He wasn't real tall, but he's stocky,
strong,
and strong runner and good runner. He knew how to cut.
Right. The next week you have you go to McKell, and I guess that is Noble. Was he coaching them?
Yeah, C.A. Noble.
C.A. Noble, and of course him and Tom were big buddies, right?
Yeah. Well, the 2 weeks before that we played him, Tom went down there and beat him. I think he beat him like maybe 27-7. And C.A. got mad at Tom during the game and cussed him all night. And C.A. had, I think, 100 and some yards penalties on him. And I know after that game on a Monday, Tom calls me at school. Said, "Herb, you better not beat McKell bad because he'll be after you." I said, "You better not get after me. I'm not going to put up with that, Tom." I said, "He'd beat me that bad if he could." And then, I don't know if we can beat him, to be honest. I said, "We'll have to find out. Play it on the field and we'll go." And
of course, you're there. You're at McKell, that little field where Don Gullett became famous, I guess.
Don Gullett's a heck of a player.
You got your dose of him in '67.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I didn't play. I think he was
senior that year.
That's right, because he graduated in '60.
Yeah.
No, he graduated in '69. So I don't think you all played him the next year though.
Oh, is that right?
That was his junior year in '67. But anyway, he was a man then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, tough guy to bring
player,
down.
buddy.
And of course that's what we all think about with McKell, and I think about CA too as well because he coached there a long time. Of course, Tom Sims was probably the coach when Gullett was in the '67.
Yeah, he was.
So OA hadn't or CA hadn't been coaching too long. Yeah,
We had coached out Boyd County, Tom.
right. Yeah, I mean as a head coach.
Yeah,
of McKell.
yeah, he'd been there a year or two.
So, you're bringing a great Tomcat team in there. You're 9-1 at this point, and maybe ranked number 2 in the state. Only lost to an out-of-state team. Man, you all wear them out. You beat them 55-7.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Before the game, this never happened. I've never seen it done ever in any game I've ever watched. We're getting ready wanting to play this game, and I thought there's people all over the field, students and people walking on the field, and people. I bet there's 300 or 400 people, and there's a pack down there that night because they had a pretty good team that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the official, I said, "Get the game started, get these people off the field." He said, "We can't do it, Coach. We tried to get them to go." I said, "I tell you what, we chose to kick off." I said, "I'm getting my team out there. We're going to kick off, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell my players, anybody in their way, parents, whoever, knock them down and go. We're going to start the game." Because we waited and waited and waited. I said, "Yeah, it's a shame that you guys can't run off the field." We sent them out there, buddy, and they weren't even on the field. And I said, "What if you don't blow the whistle in a few minutes? I'm going to blow mine." And well, they finally got them off the field. And I was mad as a hornet, and and they started calling some of our players' names, and that did it. And I got the whole boy fired up. I said, "Boys, we're going to beat them as bad as you want to, but we got to hit them all night long. I don't want anybody loafing. I don't want anybody standing around on the field. I want a lot of them McKell kids laying down out there." And buddy, we got after them.
So that was your high mark for the year, 55 points, and it was 55-7 win. You threw it some. Canute threw for 123 yards, and Queen actually had 4 receptions for 130 yards. Yeah. So Kimbrell or Kirk or somebody, probably threw a pass to him as well. Just a incredible night, for the Tomcats, scoring a lot of points, and I'm sure a lot of mad people at McKell walking out of that place.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the CA was going to, come over, congratulate him, told him we had the best team in the state, and he was real nice. And I said, "Thank you, appreciate that." I always CA and I always got along.
Yeah.
I guess because him and Tom worked together, they
it was tough.
Beat each other bad.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so that brings us to the last game, what turned out to be the last game of the season. And interesting, too, Herb, I thought that you played 12 regular season games.
Yeah. See, we wouldn't be able to play that Ironton game and the other game if we'd gotten the playoffs.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
So did you pick those games up?
Well, no. We had them scheduled. We was going to drop them if we got into the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we was going to drop them.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
we couldn't get away with that now. They'd sue you and everything else.
Well, I would tell Ironton it was, let's see what they used to tell me is, they called it some kind of day over there when we didn't get to play them 2 years. But they never had that day again since.
Well, Ironton, of course, Ironton's a great team. They're smarting a little bit from that 1970 loss probably. They're not happy about that game because they were probably the favorites, in that game. They were going to put Herb Conley out of his misery and send the Tomcats with their tail tucked between their legs back across that bridge in 1970. It didn't turn out that way. So this game, and we need to talk about, we talked earlier about some of the promotions, I guess you should say, Bill Tom was great at,
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Jericho.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that.
Well, he just got, the Jericho, he come in, he want to know if he could put it, for the defensive backs, give him spell Jericho out and give him awards.
How did they get the letters?
Well, interception, get a J,
fumble recovery, big hit, knock a pass down.
Yeah, they get a letter, and they get big hits, interceptions, knockdowns.
And wasn't it when you got the interception, you yelled Jericho so your team would know we got the ball and start blocking.
Yeah, that was the big thing. Jericho, everybody yelled Jericho, even the linemen, everybody.
But it kind of caught on, didn't it?
Oh yeah, caught on real quick.
I mean, those guys took some pride in.
Yeah, we did that at Eastern when I was.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, we did that at Eastern.
So did you put that in, or did Herb, or did it Bill Tom?
Well, he was the defensive back coach.
Okay.
He put it in.
Okay, I figured it sounded like something.
But he's the one that put all that. He come in and wanted to say, "Hey, let's get give these guys an award for
Bad Cat.
Bad Cat and all that.
Yeah.
And we put all that in. You know, he was motivator in that.
He was.
Him and Jay Callum was the best two motivators, I think, high school coaches or anybody I've ever seen.
They were similar that way, weren't they?
They were very similar, very similar.
Got people to play hard for them and want to
play,
give them some rewards and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember those guys,
they didn't get on them much. They didn't get on.
Yeah, you had to do all that.
Yeah, I did.
They had to. Once they spelled all the letters, they got the shirt then, right? That said Jericho.
Yeah.
And then, man, they wore that with pride on campus.
Yeah. Sure
and
did.
not all of them had one either, because of course that was a defensive back deal, or I guess linebackers could get it.
Linemen could.
Anybody could, but you're not going to get too many interceptions.
Yeah,
as a lineman.
your secondary be the ones get.
Yeah, but and speaking of secondary and all that, we'll get to that too. But so in that one drill you all had was like at the end of practice, I think, and this is where they picked a player to go against.
That was in '72.
Well, that was according to Kimbrell, his first start, Mike Kimbrell's first start was against Ironton in '71 because he was sophomore, and that was the game that Steve Cornute
and Mike Wheeler.
And Mike Wheeler, it was kind of like a line drill, right, where you.
Well, what it was, Bill Tom came to me and wanted to have this is our last game, wanted to have a big hit. And the reason I think is that because I went to his house the week before after this game, I went to his house and iced his shoulder down from
Steve's.
Yeah, all week to get him ready to play, and I had him going to the doctor, and but my memory's not. It's been many years ago, but anyway, Bill Tom had wanted a big hit. He said, "Coach, just have a big hit." I said, "I don't know about that, Bill Tom." I said, "These guys are fired up. They go over there, and I think they'll try to hurt each other." And I said, "These kids are hitters. They're not going to back off."
And they're going against each other.
And they're going against each other. And I said, "We can get somebody hurt." He said, "No, they won't." He said, "Just have an angle." I said, "Well, but all right, I'm going to do it." So we started him at 5 yards and put him at a side tackle, at an angle, not head on. Well, everybody was doing it right. We had about 15. They was yelling and screaming, and they picked on the guy they wanted to go against. Well, Steve Cornute and Mike Wheeler, they had this planned. I guess Bill Tom had already told them he was going to try to talk me into it. Well,
that's two of the biggest hitters on the team.
Mike Wheeler could flat knock your head off.
Yeah.
Mike Wheeler was a lot like Mike Broughton. Mike Broughton played for me. And both those kids, Mike Broughton loved to play defense. Mike Wheeler loved to play defense.
Yeah.
Neither one of them liked offensive ball. I couldn't get them play elect. We didn't play much. But both of them could have been a two-way player and been great at it because they're tough as nails.
Mm-hmm.
But
so those two guys go at it, right?
They get ready to line up, and they start at each other. And then all of a sudden, they stopped and started backing up. And I said, no. And next thing I know, they come right at each other head on.
Oh.
Well, see, Mike hit in the shoulder, hit Steve, and Steve went down. He was talking about, and I looked at Bill Tom out, and I thought, "Oh, that choke you, guy." I was so mad at him. He come after, he said, "Coach, I'm sorry." I said, "Well, you ought to be. You talked me into that." I said, "That's my fault for letting you talk me into it." And
so Steve was hurt pretty good.
Yeah. He played with a lot of pain.
Yeah.
A lot of pain. And he run with his arm. He was held down.
So you kept him at quarterback. He started at quarterback in that game, but you took him out of defense.
Yeah, I took him out of defense.
And that's when Kimbrell.
And that's when Kimbrell went in. And Mike Kimbrell did a heck of a good job.
Yeah, Kimbrell played a lot.
Yeah. Well, he played. He started before that game.
He said that was his first start. That's what he told me. But I don't know.
One of us is
not remembered right.
Yeah, I thought he let her. And he of course, he played a lot of quarters.
Yeah, he played a lot of quarters.
Him and Jerry, moved in and out.
Right.
But Mike started I'm pretty sure he started as a defensive back.
Well,
because he was a good defensive back.
Oh, yeah, he was. But he says no. He said, junior and senior year, but not sophomore until this game, in the Iron game. But anyway, regardless, that is I remember that game. Man, Iron was really good.
Yeah.
Boykin was one of the players, running backs. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, he had a good quarterback.
Yeah, always
big lineman.
Of course, you know that was the year before Bob Lutz started.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, who was there?
I can't remember who the coach was there.
Bob Bruni.
That's right. That's
Bob
right.
Bruni.
Yeah, but anyway, Ireland had a great team in 1971. They were really good,
Yep.
and that was a really good game. They ended up beating you 28-19, and if I remember right, they scored late to make it 28-19. It was like a one touchdown less all night long, just back and forth kind of game. Really exciting game, you know. And I remember that game, you know, very well. And you know, it ended the season 10-2, and you know, like I said, they weren't in the playoffs, and I know they were disappointed, you know, because of that, because they probably thought we could have done something.
Exactly.
We could have been state champs.
I tell you, who was there at that ball game was Coach Kidd. He came to watch the ball game. He was looking at Canute and a bunch of other players and people from Ireton. And after the ball game, he told me, he said, it's the best high school football game he'd seen in a long time.
Yeah.
He said, I've never seen so much hitting. He said, anybody could have won. He said, it was a really good game.
That's what I remember it too. I just remember it being a really close, exciting game. Both teams were able to move the ball some. Both teams just clobbering each other.
He loved it. He loved the game. It was one of the best high school football games he'd ever seen.
I mean, I would agree with him. Well, it was a great season for the Tomcats, and your best season to this point. You're 10-2, and you know there's more to come from a lot of these guys because you still got a lot of people back.
Exactly.
You lost some really good ones though.
Oh yeah.
You lost some high character, great football players.
Oh yeah.
You know, from this team,
Exactly.
Steve Canute being one of them.
Oh yeah. Steve Canute, Bob Queen,
and and Gardner.
Gardner.
You know, but man, you have so many of these guys back.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Got all of our linemen back.
Layman's back. The whole line's back. You got Kimbrell and Kirk
Pierre Harshaw, Layman, Randy Rice.
Yeah.
Mike Kimball.
So it's setting up for a nice 1972 season.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to get back. We're going to talk to that on our next episode. But this episode is over, and the Tomcats go 10-2 in 1971. Great season, Herb. And I know all those who were off the bandwagon are fighting to get back on the bandwagon at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly, Dad. I became a pretty good coach.
Your film room got a little bigger.
Oh yeah. We had the
Booster Club.
Booster Club. It was big, really big.
Yeah. Everybody wanted to watch the Tomcats again because look what we can do. Like I told you before, they're with you win or tie. And you just don't put that loss on them. And this team didn't do that much. So great year, and thanks for listening. We hope you've enjoyed it. We've had listeners. Coach, we've had listeners all the way from Ireland listening to these segments, and I think people are really enjoying it. So thanks for joining me again, and until next time, see you guys.